What's been the reaction since news came out that Gordon Hayward was joining the Boston Celtics?
Yes, what's going on, guys? Not on the team, but I am a free agent if anyone's interested.
All right.
Yeah, the Gordon Hayward news, obviously huge news here in New England, Boston especially. Coming in over the weekend, getting the tour of the city, going to Fenway Park, getting the whole presentation from the Celtics. And from what I heard and read, the presentation centered a lot around how they have envisioned, using Gordon Hayward. It wasn't so much the sentimental aspects of things, but the reaction has been excitement. I mean, it happened to an extent last year too, when the Celtics ended up getting Al Horford. Of course, the main goal last year was Kevin Durant. Didn't happen, but Al Horford was a nice little consolation prize. And now this year, you've got back-to-back summers where the Celtics end up signing, an all-star player, what many people would consider, borderline superstar players. And it's something that it doesn't happen in Boston with the Celtics that often. Obviously they traded for Kevin Garnett, not really a free agent signing. Before that, there really weren't any huge name signings, and now you've got two. So there's a lot of excitement here. I think some people were pleasantly surprised because, there was a lot of thought that, Brad Stevens would be a big draw, but it's still not super common for, these big name players to leave the teams that they, started out playing with. I think a lot of people, he might end up going back to the Jazz, but in the end, Boston was the pick.
Well, why do you think that is the case, Jimmy? You mentioned Brad Stevens, so we know the relationship there. But what was the other selling point that eventually made Hayward choose the C's over staying in Utah?
Yeah, so like you said, Brad Stevens was first and foremost. And I really do think that was a huge part. The other reasons I would say is Celtics won. They're in the East, so they're automatically a team that, based on the other teams in the East and based on how good the West is now, they're a team that can go deep into the playoffs for the foreseeable future. Whereas I think if you look at Utah, they've done some nice things over there, but I still think that they're, middle of the. If you're talking about the playoffs, they're towards the end of that playoff seeding, and they're most likely a one and done based on some of these teams that the West put together. And I think it's the way that the Celtics can use Gordon Hayward. I mean, he's obviously the focal point of the offense in Utah, and he would remain a focal point in Boston. But you do have a lot of help. So you've got Isaiah Thomas, you've got Al Horford. Depending on what they do, you still have a guy like Avery Bradley maybe in there. So you've got a lot of help. It's going to allow Hayward to do the same things he was doing before, but to, I think, more extent and less focus on the defensive end. You can't cheat and double up a Hayward. And in the same sense, you can't double up a guy like Thomas the way you were before, too, because you've got all these extra options on offense. So I think they sold him on the conference, his role on the team, and the effect that he'll have. And I really think it's a good match.